In this film, we talk about the athlete who achieved the lowest body fat percentage in the history of bodybuilding. Achieving such a level of fitness is not only nearly impossible, but also inevitably leads to premature death. This is exactly what happened to Andreas in 1996. It didn't take him long to gain significant muscle mass. His hard work was rewarded when he was offered the opportunity to compete in bodybuilding. It was a junior competition, and at just 12 years old, he placed second. This ignited his passion for bodybuilding. He devoted himself entirely to the sport, devoting all his free time to it. At 22, he opened his own gym, combining his two passions, earning money and training. It was around this time that he caught the attention of Albert Busek, an influential figure in German bodybuilding. Determined to advance, Andreas Munzer moved to Munich, where he found even more opportunities. Soon, he was gracing the covers of local and international magazines. He also achieved success in various competitions. After turning professional, he realized that maintaining peak fitness was a constant challenge. He trained no less than 6 times a week, and in addition to strength training, he focused on intense cardio. This strict regimen was no accident. His goal was to surpass the legendary Arnold Schwarzenegger. Andreas followed a strict diet, eliminating almost all fat. The only source of fat in his diet was red meat. He drank 2 to 2.5 gallons of water daily, adding magnesium to maintain electrolyte balance. He also took amino acids, vitamins, zinc, and vitamin A supplements. Unfortunately, Andreas relied heavily on anabolic steroids, diuretics, and other substances, which gave him an extraordinary physique but seriously damaged his health. In the days leading up to competitions, he reduced his water intake to just half a liter a day, placing enormous strain on his body. Standing 5 feet 9 inches tall, he weighed 265 pounds on stage and 250 pounds in the off-season. He won numerous top finishes, including 3 amateur championships, and built an impressive professional record. In a short time, he competed in countless events. However, his body wasn't accustomed to rest between steroid cycles, diet breaks, or recovery from physical exertion. His career was a meteoric rise, unstoppable but ultimately destructive. While this approach was undoubtedly harmful, it also commanded respect and admiration. Despite the judges' criticism, Andreas's physique was impressive. Even with minimal water and body fat, he still looked significantly more massive than others in key areas of his physique. His legs were perfectly sculpted, with flawless lines and defined muscle groups. Andreas became the only bodybuilder with a body fat percentage so low that varicose veins were visible even on his back. Over time, he adapted to standard doses of medication, but they no longer produced the desired effect. In response, he began increasing the dosage, leading to a significant financial burden. Despite this, he remained conservative in his preferences, always choosing trusted, high-quality substances. He never experimented with new, unproven substances. In 1990, he met Elizabeth Schwartz, a fellow professional bodybuilder. Their relationship blossomed into a romantic one, and Andreas promised Elizabeth they would marry as soon as he won first place at the World Championships. This dream came true, but unfortunately, he was already dead by then. Andreas Munzer's story takes a darker turn in 1996, when he and his partner traveled to the prestigious Arnold Classic. Despite his dedication, he couldn't finish higher than 6th in the competition. A ranking that might have been a warning sign for anyone, but not for him. His loved ones became increasingly concerned about his deteriorating health, but he refused to stop. He continued his relentless schedule, competing in competition after competition, ignoring the warning signals his body was sending him. Then, on March 13, 1996, the inevitable happened. Andreas felt a sharp pain in his lower abdomen, a sharp sensation that led to his rapid collapse. He was rushed to the hospital, but before doctors could assess his condition, internal bleeding had already set in. He fell into a coma and died just a few days later without regaining consciousness. The cause of death was confirmed as poisoning from powerful anabolic steroids. Munzer's liver had nearly collapsed, and his condition worsened due to a serious electrolyte imbalance. His internal organs were so toxic that they were compared to viper venom. Despite all efforts, the bleeding in his stomach could not be stopped, and both his kidneys and liver failed. At this stage, blood transfusions were no longer an option. The autopsy report revealed the full extent of the damage to his body. His physique, the result of extreme dedication to bodybuilding, was not just muscle but also almost zero fat, which is not only rare but also dangerous. Fat is essential for the human body's survival, and Muncer's lack of it had tragic consequences. His liver was riddled with tumors the size of ping-pong balls. Half of them had hardened like plastic. His liver weighed almost 3 kilograms, almost 2 kilograms more than the average male liver. The bile ducts in his liver had dilated and completely ceased functioning. His lungs were also failing, and his kidneys were deprived of fat, swollen to abnormal sizes. Andreas' heart had also swelled to an astonishing 800 grams, almost twice the size of a normal heart, which typically weighs around 350 grams. His testicles had shrunk to alarming proportions. His blood contained traces of over 20 different narcotic substances. All of this pointed to one grim conclusion. Muncer's official cause of death was dystrophic multiple organ failure, a direct result of the substances he used. In an old bodybuilding publication, a journalist named John Houghton detailed Muncer's use of performance-enhancing drugs and their dosage. Andreas underwent several brutal cycles, including administering half a gram of testosterone daily, combining oral steroids like halotestin and anadrol, and using 10 to 24 units of human growth hormone daily. This hormone promotes the growth of everything: muscle, bone, organs, and tissue. To fuel his massive muscle mass, Muncer consumed 6,000 to 8,000 calories a day, boosting his metabolism and burning those calories faster than most. Every morning, he took at least 5 aspirin tablets to thin his blood and ease pain after intense workouts. He also used ephedrine and captagon to increase the intensity of his weightlifting sessions. In preparation for competitions, he went on a strict diet for 15 weeks prior, limiting his calorie intake to 2,000 calories per day. But it didn't stop there. Just days and hours before his performances, he took diuretics like aldactone and Lasix to flush out any remaining water from his body, achieving that razor-sharp, dehydrated look that bodybuilders often strive for on stage. The late bodybuilding legend Nasser El Somebody, known for revealing hidden truths about the lives and deaths of other athletes he encountered, also shed light on the tragic story of Andreas Muncer. With the nuances of translation and the professional language of bodybuilding, Andreas Muncer was one of the most authentic, enjoyable, and professional bodybuilders to ever grace the stage. However, Albert Busek, in Muncer's case, exploited him, and many believe this ultimately cost Muncer his life. He was responsible for the major European bodybuilding magazine Sport Review and was also vice president of the European Bodybuilding Federation. His concern wasn't Andreas's health. It was solely about ensuring he remained the nominal head of his project. In other words, Andreas, as an employee, was expected to constantly push himself, even at the expense of his own well-being. It's said that Albert forbade Muncer from regular doctor visits because Andreas wasn't supposed to leave the gym on stage. He beat him twice because he was more muscular. Muncer, however, was always calm. Polite and friendly, he never complained. In later years, he developed such a solid physique that it was almost impossible for anyone in the world of professional bodybuilding to achieve it. He looked so sharp and dry that in the off-season, he resembled a reptile. His physique was better than 80% of the professionals on competition day. The intensity of his training was so extreme that it's difficult to fully convey it in a single video. Andreas once said in an interview that he constantly pushed himself to the limit during his training. He lifted as much weight as possible 6 days a week, ideally using a double split, and he maintained this for many years to build muscle from the core to the surface. His death remains one of the most disturbing in bodybuilding history. Steroids are no longer the preserve of professionals. Ordinary people attending local gyms regularly inject them, and fitness influencers actively promote various substances, sometimes produced in underground labs. There is still a lot of misinformation surrounding steroid use. Every year, more and more professionals enter the world of bodybuilding, and in reality, the steroid scene is becoming increasingly advanced and aggressive. Whether you decide to inject yourself with steroids is entirely up to you.